Welcome back, everybody. It's episode number 44. Today, we're going to be talking about Ben Watson and Brett Renfrow once again. Both of them earned some new honors just a couple days ago. So I wanted to make sure I covered that because these are pretty big honors, a pretty big deal in the baseball community. First up, we've got Ben Watson. He was recognized in the ABCA/Rawlings Atlantic All-Region second team. For those of you not aware, ABCA is for the American Baseball Coaches Association. So this adds to Ben Watson's already big year at Virginia Tech. He transferred after a few years at Elizabethtown, grad student this year, and he had already made the ACC second team, but now he's in the All-Region second team, which is even better than that. So big props to Ben Watson. He just had a big standout year. I mean, we're talking 418 was his batting average in the regular season. That was the best in the ACC for the entire regular season, and Virginia Tech's best batting average for a season since they joined the ACC. So, a big deal for him, a big deal for Virginia Tech. He also set the single season hits record for the Hokies at 93 in his final trip to the plate in the ACC championship. And what I think is really cool about this is back in the summer of 2022, Ben Watson played for the Morehead City Marlins here in Morehead City. And that's who I'm currently working with this summer. So in the coming weeks, I'll be in contact with one of the scouts who located Ben Watson and the owner of the Marlins, and hopefully I can bring them on here and talk a little bit about Watson, what they saw in him, why they knew that he was going to be a big deal because they had a great year that year, won over 30 games in the CPL, and they only play about 48 in the season. So they had a big year that year, and it was part of a big stretch of 30 win seasons that the Marlins have been on and are currently on. Um, and so I think that would be really cool to talk to them and hopefully talk to Ben Watson at some point. I think that would be really cool just to see like what they saw with him, why they knew that he could be a big hitter. He had a fantastic season with them here in the CPL, and getting some inside info into what they see as what makes Ben Watson so great. I think that would be really fun to talk about. Now, before we get into Brett Renfrow, which I've got a little bit more on, let's talk about once again today's video sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online, it's your number one source for the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. So with Brett Renfrow, he was invited to the Collegiate National Team Camp hosted by USA Baseball. Now there's 56 athletes that are invited to this event, and it's for non-draft eligible college players. Did scouring of their website, and it says that they use data from the current college season, and sometimes they'll use data from the latest summer collegiate wood bat league season to help them choose players and narrow down their selection process. So the players can be offered a roster spot, or they can be invited to the camp, and then they'll make final decisions afterwards. So you can either have a straight up roster spot offering, they'll give you a call, they'll talk to you about what they expect from you playing time wise and what they think that your contributions to the team will be, or they'll invite you to the training camp, and then they get a better look at you at training camp, and they can see how you compare with other guys, and then they'll make roster position choices after that. So Renfrow, he got invited to the training camp, so if he performs well there, he can make the final roster for the main team. And many of the top players in NCAA baseball have represented USA baseball in previous years. So I think this is a really good sign for Brett Renfrow. I mean, we know he had a great freshman year, but this shows that he sits among elite company. I mean, these are some of the best guys in NCAA baseball. But with Renfro, I mean, you're talking they see the potential that he has and how much better he can get. LSU leads the country with guys coming back for the tournament. They have 10. And we all know that LSU has a great baseball team. They had a lot of success. I mean, we're talking national champions last year. So big deal there for the Tigers. They had 10. And, this could be a very big deal for Brett Renfro as well. They've yet to announce the final roster, so it looks as if currently everyone was just invited to the training camp. They didn't make any final decisions quite yet, but that's the best I could find. And then what the collegiate national team for USA Baseball does is they'll play a two-game showcase in late June. Then they play a five-game series against Chinese Taipei in the International Friendship Series. After that, they'll play two games against the Appalachian League, otherwise known as the Appy League, and they'll play two games against an opponent in the Coastal Plain League. We don't know who in the CPL and who in the Appy League they'll be playing, but I imagine it would be two of the best teams from each, although we'll have to wait and see. So Renfrow joins elite company. Only 3 players in the last 4 years have gotten an invite. Gavin Cross in 2021, Drew Hackenberg in 2022, and Jack Hurley also in 2022. And all 3 of these guys were drafted very high in the draft, especially Gavin Cross. Now, Cross was the 9th overall pick in the draft. He went back in the 2022 draft. We also saw Hurley was the 80th overall pick and Hackenberg was the 59th overall pick. So these are some of the top drafted Hokies we've ever seen. And, a big deal for the program, how high they went up in the draft. All 3 of them in the first 3 rounds, Cross in the first, Hackenberg in the second, and Hurley in the third round. So for Virginia Tech, that's a big deal. And you can see that Renfrow is among elite company. If you're talking these 4 guys grouped together, I mean, that's elite company. These are some of the best Hokies we've seen in the last few years, and we've had them all post 2020. I think this is a very, very big deal for Virginia Tech, the Hokies, with just a couple guys making it ever all time and just being in such elite company. I think it really proves that Renfrow has a lot more to come and that people believe that he'll continue developing and becoming an even better player than he already is. Only 5 Hokies have ever earned a spot on the primary team for USA Baseball's collegiate national team all time. Franklin Stubbs in 1981, George Canal in 1985, Trey McCoy in 86, and then Cross and Hurley in 21 and 22. So he could potentially be the 6th Hokie ever on the primary team all time. Adding Renfrow to this team would be fantastic for the program. They did have a great start to the year. They got way up in the rankings. I mean, people were thinking Virginia Tech was a powerhouse, and I thought it too. They looked phenomenal to start the year, but the bats cooled off a little bit, and the pitching just wasn't there down the stretch once you got into some really tough ACC opponents, and you know things just fell apart a little bit. They've got a couple good transfers. Well, I'm excited to see actually one of them I've seen a little bit here in the CPL, Cam Pittman. I'll talk about him in another episode, but he plays for the Peninsula Pilots right now in the summer. So the Marlins and the Pilots have faced off with each other a couple of times here so far already this summer. They've got a few more matchups to come later into later June and July. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about Cam Pittman as the season goes, and once we play them again later this week, I'll be able to talk about him a little bit better and just what I think he could bring to the table as a transfer. But right now, back to Renfrow. Like I said, elite company with Cross, Hackenberg, and Hurley as three players that were all drafted in the first 3 rounds in the last 4 years who have gotten an invite. 5 Hokies ever on the primary USA Baseball Collegiate National Team. With Renfro's season, I'm not surprised that they gave him an invite. He made the ACC freshman team and the ACC third team. Just that's a big deal. He had a great freshman season. He was the Friday starter for most of the year, if not all of it. I believe he started on opening day as well. So it was clear that Renfro was just there and he was performing at the top level right from the beginning. This season, 4.92 ERA as a freshman. He had a 6-4 record, made 15 starts, threw for 75 innings, 72 hits, 43 runs, 32 walks, 78 strikeouts. He only allowed 13 doubles and 13 home runs on the season. Opposing batters were 253 against him. So 253 average was all the opposing batters combined. He really did have a good year. And along with Watson, I think they really shined on this team. We had a couple other bright spots. DeMartini was really good as usual. Michelle was really good until he got hurt, which was so unfortunate. That was a tough injury to watch. I was there for that game up in the booth, so that was certainly an unfortunate loss to the Hokies and a tough injury to watch. It'll be good to have Michelle back next year and Renfro back as well. So those guys are going to be two big building blocks to come for this Hokies baseball team. Watson will be graduated out, so we won't have any more Ben Watson, but I would be on the lookout for him in the draft with numbers like his and being able to make the jump from Elizabethtown all the way into ACC baseball with Virginia Tech. And Watson didn't just make the jump in style, he didn't just excel at the ACC level, but he came in and he led the ACC in regular season batting average. Insanity. I mean, he hit 418 in the regular season, 419 as his final stat line. He just had a great year with Virginia Tech, and he proved that he can play at any level, anyone in front of him. He's going to get the bat on the ball. And then Renfro, a great freshman season to get things going, and it brings a lot of excitement to the table for the future. And hopefully, Virginia Tech can put the pieces together and keep them together a little bit longer in 2025 once that season rolls around. They've got a lot of time. They've got some great transfers coming in. So could be a really fun season. And like I said earlier in the video, looking forward to hopefully talking to a scout and the owner who were some of the guys to bring Ben Watson here to Morehead City to play on the Marlins. And they saw a lot of potential in him, and I'd like to see how they scouted him out, what they thought, and kind of what went into that process on a deeper level. And be in tune for some really fun videos coming up. Should be a couple great ones, and just make sure you stay here for the buzz. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.